Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started. I'm Meredith Walker, Executive Director at the Texas Business Hall of Fame. Welcome to this week's 30 by 30, sponsored by Messick, Peacock and Associates out of Dallas. David Peacock and Ann Witherspoon are two of our directors who help run a boutique wealth management firm there, and we're really grateful for their support on this. Today is a really special event. For one, we have TBHF legend Ed Whitacre with us. We will put his bio in the chat. I don't think he needs much introduction. He ran Southwestern Bell, AT&T, and then General Motors. I think some of you are familiar with his book, which is, I had it written down. It's been written. Mr. Whitacre, your book has been brought up in two other sessions of our 30 by 30 by other legends as a recommended read. Is it Reinventing America or something like that? Why am I not?
No, that's
yes.
good to
know. Yes,
yeah.
American Turnaround. I knew it was something about reinvention. I can't believe I forgot.
Meredith,
okay.
I have it up on the, there it is. Okay,
so if you haven't checked out that book per the recommendation of some of these other talks, I would be sure to. Mr. Whitacre, thank you for being here today. We have a very special guest moderator, the former chair of our organization and a director, Jessica Whitacre Thorne out of Dallas. She's the managing partner at Estes Thorne & Carr. She specializes in family law, and she is Mr. Whitacre's daughter. So we are looking forward to a very interesting exchange. If you have a question today, please chat me in the chat bar that you have a question. You don't need to send me your question, and I will direct Jessica to call on you. So let's get started. And thank you so much, Mr. Whitacre and Jessica, for being here today.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I have to tell you, I'm a little more nervous than I might otherwise be. It's kind of a unique thing to get to interview your dad. So hopefully this goes okay, and hopefully you all have great questions that you can ask too. So, Dad, what would you call your greatest achievement?
Well, before I answer that, I must say it's nerve-wracking for a dad to be interviewed by his daughter too. So I'm nervous too. So ask the question again, please.
Okay. What would you consider your greatest achievement?
Well, I've had these questions in advance. It hadn't done me any good because I probably got the same answers, but I guess there's more than one answer. One would be living this long. Never thought I'd make it, and then I've made it this far. So that's a pretty good achievement. The second is I have a great family, and sticking with them for the last many years has been really rewarding to me. And I guess third, I'm thankful that I've had a mostly successful business career, gotten to see a lot of things, participate in a lot of things. And so that's my three answers to your one question.
Well, that's great, because if you said only family, I was going to make you do another one. So but that's cool. Okay. So next, what historical figure or who would you most like to meet from history?
Well, again, these are very difficult questions, and depending on the hour, I have different answers. I really can't think of anybody I'd like to meet except Jesus. And Jesus, that'd be a long time ago, 2023 years, I guess. I've met a lot of people in my life. I guess that's one I'd really like to meet because, there's billions of Christians started with one person. I'd like to know how all that happened. That's probably a kind of a well thought out answer. I can't think of anybody else.
Well, and you have met some really amazing people. You might get to talk about that in a few minutes. But before, I'm going to ask you the next question that they're expecting to hear. And that is, who is a public figure that you admire? What current public figure do you most admire?
It's certainly not any politician. I can't think of any politician I admire at this point in time. There must be one somewhere. I keep thinking there is, but I can't. I admire some business leaders, but not one more than another, I don't think. I have to be brutally honest and say, I don't have an answer for this question. I can't think of anybody.
How about this, Dad? Would you tell the group, like, you have, who is someone that you've met that really impressed you?
Oh, I've met a lot of people that impressed me over the years. I've met all the US presidents since I've been in business, and I must say I've been impressed by all of them one way or another. The most impressive, I guess, was Nelson Mandela, who was the head of the ANC and president of South Africa. And I got to spend some time with him. And that was most impressive. I guess he's in the top 2 or 3 people I've met in my life.
He didn't invite me to be there, guys. I wasn't part of that. You'd think every once in a while, but.
No, but he was very impressive, extremely impressive. Have a lot of friends around the world that I'm impressed with, but he would be at the top of the list.
What is your most treasured possession?
These questions are just too hard. If you can possess a family, that would be my most prized possession, would be my family. I'll just leave it at that. Couldn't be more impressive than my family, I don't think.
Well, I'd like to think you'd say it without me on the phone, but on the call, but you just
No,
don't.
I've got the greatest family in the world.
So is there something, is there a special gift you've been given or something, or an award you've received or something that feels valuable to you or more special than maybe others?
No pressure to say the Texas Business Hall of Fame award here. Come on. Oh, pitch.
There's lots of those. If you can possess a family, I'll stand on that answer. That's my most prized possession.
Okay. Do you have a personal motto?
Well, yes, I do. And I've tried to adhere to it most of my life. I haven't always succeeded, but that would be to treat others like you like to be treated. I think that's always served me well. I always feel better when I do that, and I try to live by that. Not always successfully, but I try.
And there's another one that I know about too, and I can share it, but don't you have kind of a second motto too?
Which is?
Be persistent. Like that one too.
Yeah, hang in there. Be persistent, hang in there. That's a good one.
Okay.
That's very essential to success.
And
persistent.
I've got to say that was the only question that I thought I knew the answer to.
Yeah.
Before getting on this call. When and where are you the happiest?
Well, I'm not always the happiest person in the world. You would certainly know that better than most. I'm the happiest right now. I've always been pretty happy. I guess I'm the happiest I've been at this point in my life.
Where do you like spending time?
Well, I like to spend time at my ranch. I like to spend time with my family. Don't get enough of that. I like to spend time on the golf course if I could play worth a darn anymore, which I can't. I'm pretty flexible on that. I guess my ranch would be my favorite.
And where is the ranch?
Well, it's in Pearsall, Texas, which is southwest of San Antonio, about 60 miles. So it's a short drive. I can go down for the day or I can go down for the week. I like it there.
I did actually know where the ranch was, guys. I just wanted you to know where the ranch was. I didn't want you to think I didn't know that.
James Baker has a ranch in Pearsall too. Are you friends?
Yes, we're friends.
Yeah.
Although we're not close friends and I haven't seen him in a long time. We are friends.
Yeah.
Is there a talent that you wish you had that you don't have?
I wish I had a better golf swing. Wish that'd work. On a more serious vein, I guess, I'd like to, I'm thinking about this, can you tell?
Yes.
I'd like to be a better speaker and a better motivator of people, so to get more done, but you know, I've done okay, I guess, but I'd like to be better at that. And I'd like to have a better golf swing, but that's about it.
Okay, this is the last question that you knew about in advance. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I'd like to say more handsome, but that probably won't get it. That ain't gonna happen. I'd like to hear better and see better too. I'd like to be a better leader. I'd like to be able to motivate people. I'd like to be a better leader. I'd like to participate more. I guess I'd like to be maybe a little more of a great speaker, but that's wishful thinking.
Okay, so I'm curious, when you say that, do you wish those things now, or have you always wished for those things? Are those things that you've always wished that you were better at?
Always, I guess, wished for those, had them in the back of my mind, certainly. And yes, I've always wished for them.
Interesting. I think that's probably interesting to most of us on this call, because I don't think we would think that was a weakness. Okay, so the current chair of the Texas Business Hall of Fame is John Keaton from San Antonio at Cap Trust, and he's going to ask, he has a question for you.
Hello, Mr. Whitacre. Good seeing you.
Hi, John. How are you?
I am doing just
Good to see
fine.
you too.
Yeah, well, I get the pleasure of asking the first one outside of your daughter, so I am grateful for that.
Make it easy, would you, John?
I'm going to try, but I'm going to try to push the limits a little too, if you don't mind. You know, you talked about your golf game, Mr. Whitacre. It was a joy of mine to play golf with you last year. I think your golf swing is just fine. So you're in good shape there.
You know my golf swing's awful, John. You saw it.
Well, it was a highlight of my year last year to play with you. You talked about leadership, Mr. Whitacre, and over these past handful of years, I've gotten a chance to get to know a good amount of your leadership team from AT&T, and I just think the world of them. And you talked about your leadership in particular. I am curious, what was your process? What was your approach in identifying leadership, but also cultivating them? Because by far, I think that the AT&T leadership during your time period was absolutely fantastic. Just curious what your approach was in terms of developing that leadership team that you had.
Well, I think you have to identify those that you think have the potential to do that. And I believe you can use all the books, everything else, but I think it boils down to how you feel inside at the end. And do you or do you not think this person can be a valuable part of the team? And then I think from that point on, you give them a try. You put them in a leadership type position, maybe at various levels in the business, but you put them in a leadership position and you do, I think, a couple of important things. One is you make sure the person has the responsibility and the freedom to make decisions and do it. You don't want somebody in leadership that has a hesitancy, I think, in deciding or acting. So you give them a responsibility, you hold them accountable, and you let them do the job. You kind of get out of the way and see what happens. Sometimes you'll find real good ones, and sometimes you won't. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people want to be in a leadership position and some do not. But you have to give people responsibility as far as development goes. You have to give them the account. You have to hold them accountable, and you have to get out of the way and see if they'll do something. I think that works most every time, John.
Completely agree. And I have to say, Mr. Whitacre, these individuals that I know, they think of you so highly and they point to you very first in terms of that development of leadership. So how you described your own leadership skills, I think was extremely humbled and filled with a lot of humility.
Well, it is what it is, John.
Yeah, well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Mr. Whitacre.
Surprised me, John. Okay, I think there's another question. So Michael Metz. Dad, Michael Metz is a former Texas Tech recipient of a Scholars Award, if I'm getting that right. And he's somewhere on here. And Michael, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Hi, Mr. Whitacre. I actually used to work with one of your good friends, Kent Hance, at Texas Tech. So,
Who would that be, Michael?
Kent Hance was his
Oh,
name.
yeah. Well, we're still good friends. We've been friends for 50 some odd years.
Yeah, he spoke very highly about you in his leadership seminar class. So thanks for being here. My question, Mr. Whitacre, is what's a lesson or principle you learned later in your career that would have helped you in your 20s and 30s?
What did I do in my career that helped me? Is that the question, Mike?
Yes, sir. What's a lesson that you learned later in your career that would have helped you had you known it earlier?
Well, I've learned a lot of lessons, but early in my career, I had a group of men that were working for me. My title, as I remember, was I was a repair foreman for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company. And late one afternoon, we had a cable cut, a big cable. And I stayed in the office. And my boss came and got me and took me out to where this crew was working. And I turned around and he'd gone. He left me out there with no transportation, but this crew of guys. And I picked up pretty quick, the lesson was, you ought to know what's going on. You ought to participate. You ought to be there. You ought to be involved in it deeply. So I think at that point I learned that, you got to be involved. You got to stay there. You got to demonstrate that you're interested, which I was. I just didn't know any better. That was a good one. And then I think another one I learned pretty early on was how not to be terrified to talk in front of a group of people. And I worked hard on that one. I even went to Dale Carnegie courses because I was terribly timid. And that helped a lot too. But just being involved with people and understanding them or trying to understand them, get close to them, I think those are the lessons that were most important to me. Not a surprise to you, I don't imagine.
Do you still get nervous before you speak in front of a crowd?
Depends on the crowd.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Mhm.
Not so much. But I think maybe a little tension, a little nervousness is not a bad thing.
It's true. I agree with that. Michael, did he answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
The best I
Okay.
can do, Michael.
Okay, let's see, Anthony Gant. So Anthony is from Austin and is a veteran. Thank you for your service. Award recipient from our veteran awards. A U.S. Marine who founded a company called At Ease Rentals. Anthony, you've got a question?
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. I'm traveling the world. Yes, my question. Well, first of all, thank you for your time and answering the initial questions today. As mentioned earlier, you're so modest. As the head of AT&T and GM, you did some great things to take them to new heights. My question for you is, did those leaders you talked about earlier find you, or did you find them? And what would you do differently with the lessons you learned? As the question earlier, I'm interested as well as to identify some of the things you say, hey, I wish I would have knew this earlier. If I can go back in time, I would kind of do this a little bit better, especially when it comes to leading people.
Anthony, I was also in the service, but I was in the Army. I probably had it a little easier than you did, but anyway, we're both glad we did it. We're glad it's behind us, right? I guess most of the leaders that I had, I'd have to take credit for finding them. And I had observed some of these people over the years, but I sort of had in my own mind who could do the job, who could be a good leader, who would accept responsibility, who would perform, who, if you would, was inoculated with the company and what we were trying to do. And so I guess most of them at the beginning anyway, I identified and had in my mind who they should be. Later on, you know, and I didn't succeed all the time, I might add. Some I thought would do good, did not, but some did. And again, I had to apply that formula, give somebody a responsibility, give them the authority to do it, and get out of the way and see what happens. And you usually can find out pretty quick, but I would say most of them I found on my own.
Thank you.
Anthony, did you have a part 2 that you wanted answered?
Yes, I did. The part 2 was for those who were successful. It's kind of easy to kind of say what went right with them, but for those who didn't work out, as you mentioned, is there anything that you think you could have done to help them be more successful, or did they get in their own way?
Oh, I think I probably could have done more to help some of them, but you know, you can't wait forever. Things move pretty fast. You have to be able to move pretty fast. Some I could have never helped. Some I could have done everything with it. They would have never gotten there. Yeah, I could have done more. I could have done more training with some of them. I could have done more encouragement. I could have tried them on different jobs. I could have done a lot of things. And with some I did, but mostly that didn't work out for me.
Thank you. That helps, because that's where I'm at with some of my
Thank
folks
you.
now. So I'm trying to figure out how much do you give and how much do you just cut the cord. Thank you.
I think a good rule of thumb is don't give too much. You know, don't wait forever, because it's not going to happen. That's been my experiences. You can give a reasonable amount of time, but you know, you can see pretty quick. You can't wait several years. You got to do something quicker than that.
I'm coming to you, Henry. Real quick, Anthony, I'll tell you, I asked him a question last week on a hiring thing, and he said, hire slow, fire fast. He didn't say that just now, but that's what he said to me last week when I asked for some advice. So, okay, Henry Sauer. Henry lives in San Antonio and received the award many years ago out of Rice.
Many years ago, yes.
That's what it was written for me.
It is true. It is a true statement. I had hair back then. Mr. Whitacre, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for your time. I'm going to start with a little bit of flattery, backing up what John said earlier. I used to run human resources for Rackspace here in San Antonio, and we benefited as a company from so many leaders that were developed as leaders under your leadership at AT&T. And all of these people, first of all, was an incredibly diverse group of leaders as well. I imagine you had to be a real leader in developing diverse leaders, which is really impressive to me. And all of those people spoke so highly of the leadership development program at AT&T, and specifically your leadership. So what you did there, made my job easier for many years. So I am very grateful to you for that. My question is, I'm curious about, as you made this transition from being at AT&T in communications for as long as you were, and making this transition to a completely different industry and a kind of a hairball of a situation, what leadership did you, I mean, what were you able to apply from all your years at AT&T that allowed you to be successful in the turnaround at GM?
Well, Henry, you're very kind to me, and thank you for those nice remarks. I appreciate that. I've had a chance to observe a lot of industries over time and worked in two, as you said. But I've found that leadership, no matter where you find it or in what company, has some pretty common characteristics, you know, and that is the ability to take on responsibility, the ability to execute, and given the authority, the ability to make something happen. And so I knew nothing about cars, as you pointed out, still don't know very much, still not very well versed in that. But the leadership characteristics are the same: willing to take responsibility, willing to take actions, willing to do something. And if they're not bound by bureaucracy, which was my first job at General Motors, was, as I saw it, was to eliminate the bureaucracy and give people the freedom to do things on their own, to do what needed to be done, rather than having to ask 10 other people or 5 other people, can I do this, or what do you think, just to see if they would do it on their own, and then hold them accountable. And some people like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the management characteristics are pretty similar in any business.
Thank you. If you don't mind me asking a follow-up, I guess I'm just curious about, as you at AT&T, you were there for a long time, so you had an opportunity to observe people for a long time, to maybe know if they were ready for that next leadership thing. As you enter into GM, a whole new set of people, how did you go about there in a new environment, identifying who was a quality leader and who was not?
It's interesting that you would bring that up, because General Motors, as they proceeded towards bankruptcy, didn't do any human resources work anymore. So I did not have a candidate list, if you would, go by. And so that leaves you really with only one way to do it, and that's ask some people who impresses you. What do you know about this person? And then go get to know them personally. And once you do that, then you have to go by your sort of gut feel of, can this person do it? So that was what I had to do there. But it was interesting.
I bet it was.
And it worked out okay. They're all still there.
Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Okay, Dad, we're going to move to Mohammed Alashi. Did I pronounce your name right, Mohammed? You're muted.
Yeah, I said, yeah, perfect.
Okay. And you're out of Dallas, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hey, I appreciate you coming on. I actually read your book a few months ago. And so I feel like I have a lot of the answers already, or a lot of the questions already answered. But also, Henry, you asked the exact question I was going to. So it allows me to ask a second question, an opportunity for a second question. You know, through working at AT&T and GM and the, you know, different and various leadership, you know, traits that you brought on in those two positions, through the book, I understood and I really appreciate it. And through this entire talk, you've spoken a lot about it. So I'm gonna kind of move away from the leadership aspect because I feel like that's probably the number one reason for your success, just the way that you've led these different companies. Other than great leadership, what other trait or skill set would you attribute to your success through the two companies? Is it capital allocation? Is it, you know, just understanding the technical aspect? Is there anything else that you can, you know, attribute to your success in those two other than the leadership?
Well, I had along the way, Mohammed, and that's a good question. I was chief financial officer for a small period.
Sorry, I can.
Right.
Very-
Something happened to your mic or something, Dad.
How about now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but it's weird. It's like a robot.
Well, since I'm computer illiterate, I have to get Marilyn in here to help me.
Okay. Well, Mohammed, while he's seeing if he can, I guess, congratulations to you. Meredith's direct chatting me, and it sounds like you're a pretty big deal in the solar installation
I
universe.
appreciate it. No, I appreciate it, Meredith. Meredith always embarrasses me.
Oh,
I have
okay.
to give commentary on all of you because you're all so impressive. And I did not expect that.
No, I appreciate it, Meredith.
Jessica,
Yes.
can you hear me now?
Well, yes, but you still kind of sound like a robot. We can suffer through probably. Can you all hear him good enough? Okay, they're saying yes. They're saying they can make do.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's tough.
Oh, that one got rougher.
That's weird. I wonder what happened.
To answer Mohammed's question, I think our loser today. If this were, yeah, you have some skills.
Right, it's getting worse, Dad. Stop talking. It's worse.
God, this is when you're so grateful the daughter is the moderator. Can we?
Hey.
I wonder if can you?
Oh, wait, Marilyn, was that you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, that's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Okay,
We unplugged it and plugged it back in.
Oh,
So
that's a good
a
way.
very scientific fix. We rebooted it. Mohammed, those are good questions. Along the way, I was the chief financial officer for a time, chief marketing officer. Yes, you have to learn the technicalities along with the skills associated with that. That was all very helpful. I did not really have a financial background. I had an engineering background, had a head start there. I had to learn the financial stuff pretty much on my own. The marketing stuff pretty much on my own. But, you know, if you're interested in that, I always found that pretty enlightening and pretty interesting to me. So, yeah, you have to do all that stuff to make it work.
And what was your biggest hurdle when you joined GM and AT&T with those different points? So just the marketing and financial aspect, I assume you were a big part of that as well.
Well, yes. You know, it's pretty easy at GM. They had more expense than they had revenue.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's pretty simple. How do you improve revenues and reduce cost and do it simultaneously? But, you know, you can tell without getting down in the weeds or without having a vast amount of knowledge of finance or the stock market or markets or marketing. You can tell on a high level what's wrong. And then you can focus and find people who are leaders in that area and get them on your team and solve most problems.
Thank you.
That's what happened to GM.
Yeah.
And Mohammed, you know, he was climbing poles when he started at Southwestern Bell back in the day. So he's probably just trying to,
younger than I could climb a pole.
right, just trying to keep his job
I can't
then.
even climb a ladder, I don't think. But anyway.
I appreciate it.
Meredith, do we have time for the one other question, or what do you want to?
Well, Mr. Whitacre, can you stay on for one more question? We're a little
Sure.
over time.
Sure, I'm okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Jim Brooks is another Texas Tech Award recipient. And I think, Jim, you've got a question?
Yes,
You're
I
good,
do.
Dad.
And it's a pretty simple question, so it won't take too long. Mr. Whitacre, thank you. You actually interviewed me last year for the award, so I just want to say thank you. And also an engineer from Texas Tech. So you have a wonderful reputation about being a great leader with the organizations that you've led, but it really intrigued me when you stated that you like to be a better leader. Of all of your success and leading people, what was it that you would like to improve upon by that statement?
I'd like to have been able to, I think, Jim, this is my perception. You say I was a great leader, and I thank you for saying that, but in my own mind, I never thought I was that great. And I'd like to be able to motivate people, inspire people, be in a position to give them a chance on their own to do what they want to do and to aspire to do other things. I always felt like I fell a little short in that area. It's just an internal feeling, you know?
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate it. I was just, anyways, admired that statement. So thank you.
I think we could all learn a little from your humility.
It's true. True.
Well,
Very humble.
We're gonna, I appreciate everyone being on this call, especially Mr. Whitacre. Thank you for your time. And Jessica, thank you for doing this. I believe next week we have John Goff out of Fort Worth. I'd encourage everyone to register. I do have one question. Mr. Whitacre, you mentioned you'd met every living US president. I'm just curious, who was the most, on a personal level, who did you find the most engaging or amusing, or who had the best personality one-on-one, in your opinion?
And a president?
Uh-huh.
Barack Obama.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, this has been awesome. I thank you for indulging us, even though you didn't want to answer some of those questions, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.